Hello and welcome to For Fox's Sake. This is the preview with myself, Rob Hayes. We've got Jono and Joe with us as well. Ready to look ahead to Leicester versus Coventry at the King Power Stadium on Saturday lunchtime. The M69 derby, if you like your roads and your atlases and that kind of thing. If you're joining us live on Facebook, YouTube and X, you're very welcome to interact with the show this evening. And if you're watching back the recording or listening to us as a podcast, you're still very welcome to get involved, just not so much on the live aspect. Social media is a great place to get us, or if it's something that requires a bit of hefty typing, the email address for foxsakepodcast@gmail.com. I usually start the preview by asking if we're feeling optimistic or pessimistic, but I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball in. I haven't preempted this with Jono and Joe. It shouldn't be too difficult to handle, lads, don't worry. But given that for Fox's Sake Podcasts, Pete Selby has been far too busy to do a big show this week, so we haven't had the chance as a podcast to look back at the 2-2 draw against Oxford at the weekend. Obviously, this is the preview, so we're mainly looking forward, but sometimes you've got to look back to look forward. So a very quick question for both of you to start us off. And Jono, will go with you first. The 2-2 draw at Oxford last weekend, 1 point gained or 2 points dropped, in your opinion?
2 points dropped, I think, in my view. Although, considering the red card, I'm happy with the point. I think I said at half-time when watching the game that I'd take a point at this point. And we were 2-1 down at that point. So I'm happy with the point. But yeah, I think regardless, I think we should have won the game. And we probably would have done with 11 men.
And last week, Joe's little tagline on his video, for those of you that are listening to us via podcast, his little tagline said Joe, and it said ledge underneath it. This week, I'm pleased to inform those of you that don't put yourselves through the misery of watching our faces and just listen through the good old-fashioned podcast means Joe's tagline this week is hates Cov. So Joe, who hates Cov, 1 point gained or 2 points dropped to the weekend?
I thought it was a point gained, really, considering the red card. And I was on the preview last week saying that I thought it was going to be a real battle. And it was not quite the way I predicted. But they came out the traps. And it's a point away. So, yeah, I actually thought we were almost better with 10 men than we were with 11. There was, a few things to be encouraged by. But, yeah, a point gained in the end, I'd say.
I was about to say, when we went down to 10 men, didn't he take Samari off? So basically you're saying we're better without Samari.
We'll come on
we're
to
just
Samari
all the time.
Well, we're just carrying Samari in the centre of midfield. I think from my point of view, I'd go more 1 point gained than 2 points dropped in terms of the context of the game. I think Oxford surprised me with how well they played. Don't get me wrong, Leicester weren't exactly at the races in the first period. And you can kind of understand Ramsey's eagerness to get into a couple of tackles and stuff. The red card is one that I think a lot of people are on the fence with a little bit. I think in modern football you can't really tackle like that and expect to get away with it. But I think if you looked at everything and took it all into consideration, I don't think anybody would have been hugely had anything hugely negative to say about it only being a yellow. But I can see why it was a red. Interesting the point there that you said that we looked a lot better in the second period with 10 men. There were a few tactical tweaks. And I think the direction that we'll go with the preview today is to maybe look at the team in sort of 3 or 4 sections, depending whether you want to separate the goalkeeper from defence, and just have a look at how those sections have done so far this season and what changes would come in, because Cifuentes hasn't really tinkered that much with starting lineups unless he's been forced to do so through injuries. But now we know what the squad looks like. We've got new players who have had an extra week to train with the team and take some ideas on board. We've got a couple returning from injury. We've got a few players that have spent most of the season so far on the bench but have proven their worth coming off the bench. So actually, we're in a good position in that respect, but this might be an opportunity. Whether he will or not is another question. But it might be an opportunity for Cifuentes to make a few more changes than usual, just because of those factors. So we'll start at the very back with the goalkeeper. Now, up until the signing of Vietes the other week, Stolarczyk was obviously the undisputed number one, with only the old man Begovic and a couple of academy goalkeepers knocking about. But Stolarczyk, I don't know whether I was watching for it or not, but he didn't fill me with 100% confidence against Oxford. I don't think it was his best game. He's always been injury cover for Hermansen, where that was his job, and then start the season undisputed number one. But I wonder if last week was a response maybe to the pressure of Vietes coming in or not. Vietes is his first couple of weeks training with the club, having been alone for a few weeks, having been released from his contract in August. So is Stolarczyk the undisputed number one? I know we don't know a huge amount about Vietes, but Joe, obviously, I think for me, Stolarczyk starts on Saturday against Coventry. I'm not suggesting anything drastic, but did you see anything against Oxford that maybe made you think, hang on, this Vietes coming in to push him for the number one spot could be a good thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That was my thoughts. I mean, we've known that Stolarczyk's distribution isn't great. It wasn't very good at all versus Oxford, kicking it out of play and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it wasn't his best game. It was probably his worst game this season. So yeah, it's very much a good thing that Vietes is there. I think it's going to keep him on his toes. I mean, it's his to lose really at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, I'm glad that we've got the competition in there, because it wouldn't be a great situation if he didn't have someone pushing, and if he continued to play like that for I don't know how many weeks, you would be thinking about changing it up really. But I haven't really got any doubt that he'll put in a decent performance again. I think it was just a funny old game really in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Jono, we've got to remember Stolarczyk is a young lad. This is his first season as the number one goalkeeper. He's actually come out and said himself that nobody's told him that he is the number one goalkeeper. Some managers would have that conversation, some wouldn't. It might be that in Cifuentes' mind, he was the number one goalkeeper until the deal for Vietes actually managed to come through. So I guess for Stolarczyk, having Vietes and having the experience of Begovic means that if this is the season that he plays as the number one goalkeeper, one, he's got the competition from Vietes. Two, he's got the experience of Begovic. And actually, we're not looking at the finished article yet, but this is a goalkeeper who has impressed in the times that he's played in a Leicester shirt so far, but has still got a way to go.
For me, he's still got enough credit in the bank from last season. He's had a couple of wobblers this season. The Preston game was one example. I didn't think he did particularly well against Oxford. There were a couple where he kind of flapped at it. I think particularly their second goal, I think he could have done better. But yeah, he's young, and for me, we've seen enough to know that he's got enough quality in the bank. So I think put it down to the fact that he's young and developing. For me, he's still the number one. But you're right, having the competition is a positive thing. I'd stick with him.
The defence is definitely a more interesting question. I don't feel like in the last few years I've had any confidence in any kind of Leicester defence, whether we're playing 3 there, 4 there, whoever the personnel are. And we'll talk about Coventry City, Saturday's opponents, in a little bit more detail in a little while. But I think the one thing that everybody knows, even if you're not hugely into Championship football, is the fact that they have bagged a fair few goals so far this season. Our defence has its limitations. Set pieces haven't been great. It's the sort of the distribution of Okoli, the lack of pace of Vestergaard, which has been the preferred centre-back pairing, is a worry. So here's a big question for you, Jono. It's a question that I'm sure Marty Cifuentes gets paid a lot more money than us guys to try and answer. But what, if anything, could be done in your opinion, ready for Saturday, or has been possibly done this week to tighten things up and make us be able to sort of repel the Coventry attack a bit better? Would you change any shape, any personnel? What would you do defensively?
I probably wouldn't change it. What are the options that we've got? We've got Wout Fass. If we're talking about personnel, we've got Nelson. So I think Akoli and Vestergaard are probably our best two options at the centre. Probably Ricardo to start. I think he's our best player. But whether you put him in midfield, I don't know. Chowdhury's been playing all right at the right back. So, and then left back. Yeah, I don't think I would change it. I think all I would do is make sure that we actually start the game with a bit of gusto, and we're playing at home, and just make sure that we're on the front foot. I think the biggest problem we had against Oxford was the fact that we were really passive and really slow. And I think we've seen that a few times this season, particularly in the Preston game. And probably as well, you could argue the Charlton game was quite similar, where you felt a little bit sluggish and maybe a little bit complacent. And I think Marty said sort of the same sort of thing at the end of the game, that he wasn't happy about the way we started. So I'd probably keep it the same team for now.
So Jono's going with better the devil, you know. I just think Samare is that kind of guy, isn't he? That I know he's a midfielder, but Samare is just like, it just seems to keep appearing. Joe, is there any way in your mind that we can keep a clean sheet on Saturday?
Well, firstly, it's not hard for Marty Cifuentes to get paid more than us to make decisions. Considering we don't get paid anything, but luckily the listeners will be glad to know we're not getting paid for this, for our opinions. But yeah, I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but I think that's probably more down to the fact that Coventry are taking like 100 shots a game or something like that. I don't think we've been too bad defensively. One thing I was thinking about, and sort of leads on to the midfield conversation, is sticking with Chowdhury, but having maybe Chowdhury in the midfield and starting Ricardo at right back. And they could kind of cover when Ricardo went further. Chowdhury could sort of drop back. Because for me, Hamza doesn't really deserve to be dropped. He's played pretty well in the right back position, but you've got to get Ricardo on the field because he's been one of our best players. So that sort of opens up the conversation about the midfield. So I'm going to sort of preempt you there a little bit, Rob, because I think the midfield could be any combination of sort of Ricardo, Hamza, Winks, or James, really.
Yeah, we'll move on to the midfield in a second. Yeah, because I think defensively, the person that I would possibly look at is if you want Ricardo and Hamza Chowdhury in the team, and when we get onto the midfield conversation, I'll make a big case for Harry Winks coming back in. I guess the only other way really that you could fit both of those in, if you didn't want either of them in the centre of midfield, and he'd be a casualty despite having a pretty decent start to the season, but it would maybe to take Thomas out and drop Ricardo in at the left side of the fullback, because the way that Cifuentes builds a lot of the time is with the centre-backs having the ball, the fullbacks coming in. We saw central midfielders moving a little bit wider into the spaces that they vacated to receive the ball. So if Ricardo and Chowdhury both started as sort of a double inverted fullbacks on both sides, I think this would only work as we move into the midfield if Winks started, because Winks is phenomenally good at, and we saw this under Enzo Maresca, at dropping really deep, almost sort of between the centre-backs and receiving the ball and keeping the tempo moving. So, you could almost look at it as, in possession, it would be, let's say, Vestergaard and Akoli keep their places, and Winks in the middle, and sort of be a three to build from in the back. Ricardo and Chowdhury both tucking in more inverted, and then the midfield ahead of those, whether that's Skip, Samari, or James. You know, take your pick out of those guys, really. But I wonder if that's something that could be considered. And do you two think as highly of Harry Winks as I do? Because he came on against Oxford and he looked a cut above. I mean, he's played in the Champions League, Premier League. He was instrumental under Maresca. Let's go to Joe first. Winks back into the midfield, deep line midfield for you?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to start, really. You know, we've seen it a few times, him and Ricardo just coming on in the second half, and the game changes and they just are a class above. And I think just what you're saying there, Rob, you know, is kind of what I was trying to get at, you know, try and get Chowdhury and Ricardo on the pitch, and then you can have Winks and someone else. Personally, I'd like it to be Jordan James, really. You know, Samari and Skip, do they deserve to be dropped? They worked hard last game, but as soon as Winks is on the pitch, he's a class above. And when we saw it at Oxford, he just makes everything tick. Particularly in this league, in this level, he's just makes everything work for us, really. So for me, he's got to start. I think people have been, you know, the calls for him to start have been getting louder. But it's when you watch a match, it's just so obvious as soon as he comes on, and slightly confusing as to why Marty still hasn't started him, really. You know, you can only sort of scratch your head and think about all these like sort of rumours and Instagram posts and all that. But the transfer window is closed. He has played well when he's come on. He deserves a start. So yeah, I think most people would want to see it. Unless Jono's just going to say something completely different now.
Go on, Jono. What does the midfield look like for you?
Not Skip and not Samari together. I think it's plain to everyone to see that those two together just don't work, and they haven't worked this season, really. We've got through games regardless of that, rather than because. I'm bemused as to why that's carried on for so long. So yeah, I would start Winks. I'm not Winks' biggest fan, frankly, after all the shenanigans that we've seen over recent times. Does he actually want to be here? He's got no choice now because the window's closed. But I think while the window was open, I think that probably was the issue as to why he wasn't starting, because he was probably either looking for a move or, you know, not fully committed. But now the window closed, he's got to knuckle down and look for his contract's at the end of the season, as far as I'm aware. So he's probably needs to start playing for a move, his next move. So if he's back motivated and his head's straight and he wants to play for the club, then Harry Winks is probably one of the first on the team sheet, I would say. So I would definitely have him back in. Especially after the performance last week, he just completely changed the game with him and Ricardo. They are a cut above at this level. So we've got to have our best players on the pitch. And if they're motivated, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, my concern with Skip and Samari is the fact that neither of them seem 100% comfortable on the ball, and Cifuentes has said that the kind of player he wants to see is the kind of player that's always going to show for the ball, is not going to try and hide, not going to shy away. Yet those two never fill me with confidence when they receive the ball, whereas Winks and Ricardo, obviously we had to change the system when we went down to 10 men. They sort of just saw it out till half time, changed the system, and then we just look so much more comfortable in possession, because Harry Winks, he's spent his entire career receiving the ball in tight spots, playing progressive passes if they're on, but keeping the ball, keeping things nice and tidy, and at a tempo as well. My issue with Samari has always been he looks like he does everything half a second slower than everybody else, and when he receives the ball, he just dallies a little bit, and then he can't get it out his feet, then he can't move the ball. Winks is the epitome of the one touch to receive it, one touch to move it on, and then make an angle to receive it again if he needs to. I'm just throw one more conversation into the midfield debate before we move on to the attacking positions, and that's that Coventry kind of play a sort of the 4-2-3-1 shape, if you like. So they will have Rodoni kind of operating in the number 10. And so far this season, the sort of solidity in midfield hasn't necessarily been there, particularly in transition. And I just wonder if possibly, I know I said earlier, considering Chowdhury and Ricardo as two inverted fullbacks, but actually, could we look at Chowdhury doing the original job that we knew him so well for from years and years ago, of just sitting in front of the defence, putting in the tackles, winning the ball, and then if Winks is alongside him, then he can do the stuff in possession. I think that's my concern, my sort of conversation there. If you're watching along with us live, as a lot of you are on YouTube, Facebook, and X, if you've got anything that you agree with, disagree with, or anything we've not covered, please do drop a comment, and we'll discuss your opinions as well. We move forward then into the attacking sort of four positions, if you like, the two wide midfielders, the number 10 and the number 9. The only lack of availability there is Ramsey after the red card against Oxford. It's likely that Page is going to be available again. We know that Cifuentes likes Bobby Decord over Reed, and that he's back and will probably feature in some way, shape, or form. And he can play pretty much across that front line. Carranza didn't feature against Oxford, so there's a huge amount of options for Leicester in the sort of attacking midfield 3 and forward positions. Jono, you first. Then how does the shape look for you after we've got past getting rid of Samari and Skip from midfield?
So I think Ricardo's flexible enough to. I think we should play a 3 in the midfield, with 2 wingers, an Ayew up front. James is an interesting one, isn't it? JJ. I think he looked good when he came on, and I think he's going to be a really important player for us this season. So where he starts featuring, I'm not quite sure. Can he be the sort of what you were describing as what the Chowdhury role of sort of breaking things up? It's a bit of a box-to-boxer, isn't he? So he can do a bit of everything. But if we had Winks in there as well, I think then we need, a more attacking option. Decover Reed's an option, but again, it's not necessarily. I'm not sold on Decover Reed. We haven't really seen him at this level, so maybe he can be decent at this level, but certainly didn't. He didn't do much last season. Didn't pull up any trees, did he, last season? So maybe due to the fact that we've lost a couple of options in the number 10, is Louis Page fit again? Maybe, maybe not. I'd probably start with him, and with Ayew up front and 2 wingers.
Joe, how do we? Sorry, Jono, carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say Ayew's surprised me a little bit. I think we were all moaning and groaning about him, but I think he's shown enough this season and he's got off the mark now as well. But I think he's played really well this season. I think, okay, he's had his moments where he hasn't, but on the whole, I think he's done really well and he deserves to keep his place. I mean, I am a bit annoyed we didn't see anything of Carranza last week, but due to the red card, maybe that was the reason. But hopefully he gets some time at the weekend as well.
Joe, nobody's mentioned Patson Daka yet. Come on.
No. No, I'm not going to mention Patson Daka. I'm going to sing, "Are you ready? Are you ready for goals?" Yes, I am. It's just me at the KP singing that. No one's joining in, but I'm determined. There's 2 things. There's one, what I think will happen, and one that I'd like to happen. Yeah, basically the wingers pick themselves. I would like to see Louis Page have a go again. I think it would be Jordan Ayew starting up front. What I think will happen is that he may well play Bobby Reed in the number 10. I think that's been hinted at quite a lot. He seems to like him. And I think that's where he's played his best stuff for Fulham, although don't quote me on that. But yeah, I think that is what will happen. And to be honest, he wasn't particularly impressive last season, but no one was. So we'll see how he goes in the Championship. We say that about a lot of our players. They're decent enough players at this level, and I think that might well be the case with Bobby Reid. I mean, Jordan, you got to love him. He works hard. He takes a lot of shots. Sometimes I think he should be passing it. You can pick out a few occasions every game where he takes a shot rather than passing to a teammate. But yeah, he will. He'll be starting. I mean, all right. I'll mention Patson Daka. I'll take the bait. His best, if you're going to use him, you're going to bring him on to press a bit, aren't you? That's all you're going to do. He's a striker that, unfortunately for us, doesn't really score goals anymore. And if we want to get, what you might do is take off Ayew and Reid at some point and put Patson Daka and Carranza on later in the game. That may well be the way it goes. But I'd really like to see Carranza. I think everyone would. It's a home match against Coventry. Let's see him. Apparently he plays off the shoulder and stuff like that. So it could work quite well when Coventry are peppering our goal, as they're very confident of doing, from what I can tell. It snuck onto their forum earlier on. And that was a harrowing experience. But they seem to be quite confident. A lot of them do. So yeah, it's going to be a really good game. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If you come across,
I do wonder whether we should go 2 up and really give them a go. Carranza and Ayew, just to throw some weight about up front.
Yeah,
that could be
awesome.
I'd love to see 2 up. I've been saying it for years. I'm hoping that one day football cycles will go all the way around and we'll start seeing 4-4-2 again, and people will go, "What's this new system?"
And we'll have a big man and a little man up top, like Heskey and Owen in the glory days for England. We are rapidly running out of time, guys. Just a quick comment has just come in from Stephen, who says, "I understand your point about Winks, but I think Marty only really wants people who are committed, and Winks will be gone at the end of the season." So, sort of echoing your thoughts there, Jono, as to, does Winks actually want to be here? Does he want to be here enough to make a telling contribution? Coventry fans can be as confident as they like on their forums, Joe, but the reality of it is that they have never won at the King Power or the Walkers Stadium. Their last win in Leicester came back in 2001. So very good luck to them. They do have obviously the attacking threat that we've talked about. But the way that we will finish the preview, as we always do, is to throw in our predictions, whether they are sensible, wild, or from dreamland, like this one from, for fuck's sake's, very own Pete Selby, who is working this evening, allegedly. He has said 10-0 Leicester, which is very, very realistic, I'm sure, because it's got Leicester keeping a clean sheet, so absolutely not happening. Fellas, you're both going to the game at the weekend, so bear in mind the time, with about a minute and a half left, if we want to stick to our mantra of a 30-minute preview. Jono, looking forward to the game on Saturday. I hope you are. And what are your predictions?
Yeah, massively looking forward to it. My first M69 derby. I've got a few colleagues that are Cov fans as well, so looking forward to giving them some stick next week at work. Yeah, I'm going for a 3-1. I think I'm confident that we'll get something at home. Jordan Ayew to score, I reckon.
3-1 with Jordan Ayew on the score sheet. Joe, can you do any better?
Oh, I like it, Jono. I like it. I just want to get in there that I'm a Hinckley boy originally, coming up from Somerset, so it's a 3-hour drive up for us. And yeah, growing up, everyone was Coventry fans in Hinckley, so I can't wait. My first derby as well. Got the kids with me. We're all really excited, and we will be giving it some. And particularly when we score 3 goals, it'd be boring to say the same as Jono. So I'm going to go 4-1. Yeah, why not?
4-1.
Absolutely spank them.
That would feel good for a Hinkley boy, wouldn't it? I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of those two. I'm going to go 3-2. I think Coventry will put a couple past our defence, but provided we keep 11 men on the pitch, I'm hopeful that we can basically just score more goals than them. That's all we want. And look, the excitement of it being a bit of a derby game, Saturday lunchtime as well, a 5-goal thriller would do me very, very nicely. Thank you very much, Jono. Joe, it seems to be a bit of a habit that the three of us keep meeting every week on the preview. I'm sure we'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you very much to everybody that has watched along live with us, watched back on any of the socials, or listen to us in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, if you do want to get in contact with us at any stage, our social medias for Fox 8 Podcast, or if it's a bit of a lengthier thing, for fox8podcast@gmail.com is the email address. I will hold Pete Selby to make sure that he does a big show next week. He can't not do a big show off the back of a derby victory over Coventry City. We'll speak to you soon.